Yeah, dance life. All right. Hey, best friend, I am here right now with a special guest that I'm going to introduce to you in just a moment. And I just wanted to say thanks again for listening. As always, am so glad that you're here. And I was just dancing, with my guest. And so I can't actually wait to introduce her to you because I know that you're going to gain so many valuable things from her. And this superwoman, because she is a superwoman, you're going to know that more as you start to listen to her, is she's got all of these certifications in nutrition and DNA, and she's a personal trainer. And she is also, and I don't want to like say it wrong, but she's like a WBFF Pro. Is that correct? Yeah, that, and she's going to tell you about that too, because if you're not in that industry, you might not actually understand what that means, but it takes a lot to achieve that level of fitness. So I'm just going to kick it over to Jessica, lovely Jessica Loftis, for her to explain to you sort of her credentials and her certifications and what it even means to be a WBFF Wellness Pro.
Well, Dr. Britt, thanks for the amazing introduction. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you inviting me on your podcast today. I know that does sound like a mouthful, genetic specialist, nutritionist, what are all these things? But in a roundabout way, it's just I help people develop a lifestyle that they can enjoy. I help educate them on foods, how to fuel their bodies properly. I also do that through a genetics-based approach, which just really kind of helps us understand, the blueprint to our bodies, how our bodies work. So that way we can not just, get better results, but also live a better quality life and create longevity as well. And I absolutely love the industry that I'm in, just kind of fell into it over the years. I've always been an athlete and just kind of, I guess you can say, like I said, rolled into the role. I have a master's in business administration as well. And that, like I said, I just kind of went into the corporate world and realized I just wasn't being fulfilled there. So I just absolutely love working with people with nutrition, health, and fitness. Being a WBFF pro was something I also kind of fell into. I actually didn't start even doing that until after I had my daughter. It was just something that I've always wanted to do. And the WBFF is more like a fashion meets fitness kind of gig. So I kind of talk about it as almost like a fitness pageant. I love the women that I've met through the WBFF. We've created such great friendships. I just love the atmosphere, and I just love being around people that can accomplish these amazing goals as mothers, as full-time, workers and all those things, and still just, come out on top. It's just been a really great journey, and it's just really helped me learn about myself and, just kind of, help me accomplish a goal and just really realize that we're just capable of so much more. And so that's been a really fun process to accomplish over the years as well.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. I love even like as a woman, the pageant and the fitness. It's like, oh, that sounds so empowering. It sounds like you're around a
Mhm.
lot of women that feel very empowered with
Yes,
themselves, their
absolutely.
bodies, and so I'm over here going, all right, for our listeners, how did you get into this space of focusing on nutrition and moving out of business? How did you end up here?
Well, basically, like I've said, I was an athlete my entire life. And at a young age, I've always been very competitive. And I realized that nutrition has a huge role in the way we perform as athletes and as well as outside fitness from, the sport itself. And so, like I said, I kind of just started doing that stuff as a young adolescent, I guess you could say. And then I got into personal training in college and started working my way through college as a personal trainer. And then once I got my master's degree in business administration, I went into the corporate field for about, I think it was just a couple years, just under a couple years, and just realized I wasn't fulfilled. I realized that I genuinely loved helping people achieve physical goals. I loved those messages that I would get saying, hey, you changed my life. Because of you, I was able to gain confidence to go to the next level and, apply for something that I never thought I would do or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. And so that was a really big thing for me. And when I was working, I just, day in, day out, getting on that treadmill of life and just realized that there had to be something more. And so I really feel like my passion kind of led me to my God-given purpose, which was to serve people through health and wellness. And so after that, I just decided, hey, it's time for me to just cut the ropes here and just go full-time health and fitness and helping people in that realm. And it just kind of, grew after that. But that's pretty much kind of how I got into it.
That makes sense. I hear you talking about it. And I know probably some of our listeners have even felt that or feel it now of just going, I know what I'm doing is not living in my purpose.
Yeah.
And just even the pain or the struggle that's a part of that. Jessica, how did you get brave enough? Because I think it requires bravery to just go, okay, I'm forsaking this degree that I spent years earning to go pursue something that I'm more passionate about.
And sometimes you just got to have a little bit of faith, and just realize that if this is what you feel your calling has been and God is speaking to you, whether, like I'm a Christian woman, I'm not afraid to say that. And I just felt like that was just what I was supposed to do. And of course I talked with my husband about it. And we were in a good position to where that I could make the move. It was still super scary, to go full time and really leave something. But I also thought to myself is, I did pursue a degree in business. Like I said, I got a master's degree. And I just realized that I could use those tools that I learned in, business school as for tools in my own business as well. It's like, why couldn't I be the entrepreneur? Why I could see other people accomplishing their goals and pursuing their passions. Why could I not do that? And the thing is, we can do it, and sometimes we just we go with the shoot, aim, fire approach. And sometimes we just gotta fire, you know what I mean? And then figure it out as we go. And that's pretty much what I did. It was a lot of, like scariness at first, but I just realized if this is what I was supposed to do, then, God would open up those doors and just keep moving in the right direction. And it's hasn't let me down since.
I love what you just said because you said something that I say too, which is sometimes you just have to do it afraid. So many of our, as women, sometimes I think we can easily get in our head and we just overthink things way too much. We think it to death. And so you said sometimes we just need to shoot. And you saw this dream, you saw this passion, and you just shot at it. And here you are now walking out an area that you're really passionate about, which is, helping women. And I don't know if you work with men also, but you and I were talking about women. And so I'm curious, what is it that made you passionate about serving women and getting that nutritional component in? What is it that made you passionate about that?
So honestly, the passion kind of came from my own personal struggle. I struggled with eating disorders growing up, body dysmorphia. And honestly, I could date that back I would say for sure, probably sixth grade, potentially before that, get a little bit older now. I'm 34. So those years are starting to kind of like get a little hazy, but, I struggled with that stuff my entire life, and especially, as a young adult and a teenager, and, through my own struggle is where I felt like my passion came from, because eventually I just wanted to be the person for other people that I wish was there for me, and that's really where my passion came from, was from my own struggle. And then, kind of like, grit my teeth and getting through the hard times, overcoming the eating disorders, the body dysmorphia, insane amounts of weight gain. I mean, just being like, I felt just so isolated and alone. And, there were some really dark times in my life, even after I had my daughter, struggling with postpartum depression, all those things. Once I came out on the other side of that, I wanted to be that person for somebody else, and that's where the passion came from. And then bringing in the nutritional component, I think about the quote from Hippocrates, it says, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. That's a huge thing, because food has or nutrition in general has such an amazing impact on our life if we use it the right way. A lot of women fear food. It's like we fear food because we think that it's going to, cause us to gain weight, or just there's so much, fear around food, when food is actually the answer.
Yeah.
we know how to do it properly, it can be such a game-changing component for people as far as our mental health, our physical health, longevity of life, our risk for chronic illness. And so when you can combine those two things together, I mean, it's a recipe for a game-changing component. So that's kind of how my passion, developed. And then I realized that very early on that nutrition was a huge component to making that actually successful as well.
You just said something that I imagine, and I talk about this stuff, but I go, women may not have even heard this, that food is medicine. So many times, we live in this world that labels foods certain ways, or it's a cheat meal, or that's a bad food, or whatever it is. We start to put these labels on it. But then to think about food as medicine. Can you talk even more about that concept?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I'm really passionate about because, it really led me to really dive in deep into the genetic side of things. And that's one of the reasons why I realized very early on that was so valuable, because food chemistry matters. The way food reacts to our body, that's exactly what food chemistry is. And I mean, there's certain types of foods that are literally going to trigger depression. There's foods that can enhance your health. There's food that can cause sleep issues, and then when you're sleep deprived, that is a whole nother slew of things that can really, affect our mental health, the way our body loses fat. I mean, it's just crazy how it's really linked to so many things. And it's also crazy, I mean, from anything from mental health to infertility, I mean, when you start looking at the statistics and the numbers on the amount of people that are on antidepressants, or the amount of people that struggle with infertility, we don't realize that we're basically triggering these things and we don't even know it. It's just because we're not educated in this area. And it's a very, very important component, but I also feel like a lot of people don't really know either, because we don't really know about nutrition. We're never really taught about nutrition. We're never really taught about how food is actually a form of medicine, and so to be able to bring that to the table has been a really, really cool concept, because, the first thing that a lot of my clients talk about when they start their journey is that how they feel better. Their brain fog is starting to go away. They're thinking more clear. Their emotions are getting better. And, when our mental health is suffering, our relationships with our spouse or our kids, I mean, the stress that we can handle, all those things relate to just how our health is. And a lot of our health comes from what we're putting in our bodies as well. So that's kind of, how I feel about that.
That makes sense. I'm wondering, as you're talking, going, okay, our listeners still might not understand how food relates to mental health or food relates to infertility. And I know that just like with our genes, I hear you that it's not just a blanket, like, all right, if you eat some sort of greasy food or canola oil or whatever, you're going to deal with infertility, or you're going to deal with mental illness. Can you think of maybe a client that you've had, or I mean, if there is a more blanket, that's fine, but ways that a certain food could be contributing to that?
One of the biggest things for a lot of my clients is artificial sweeteners. When we start diving into the genetic factors, we start looking at things like, it's called MTHFR. It looks like, this crazy genetic whatever. But it's basically how our bodies detoxify. So some of us, and I'm actually one of those people.
Me too.
Yeah, we're the people. We can't process things well. Our bodies, some people can process things, detoxify better, more efficiently than others. But when we have the reduced capacity to just naturally detox in general, when that, congestion happens and our liver gets congested, our cells get congested, things can't function properly, and then inflammation gets triggered, and that increases our risk for chronic illness. So there are certain types of foods that can really kind of basically turn your bad genes on and leave them on, and big things for us has been artificial sweeteners. So that would be like aspartame and sucralose. Those are probably your two most common ones that are found in like your diet sodas. Lots of sugar-free drinks, water flavorings like Mio, coffee creamers, they're in protein powders, all kinds of stuff.
Everything.
I mean, it was even in my ketchup. I had no idea it was even in my ketchup. And so you're thinking, oh, well, I drink Diet Coke, right? Well, it's like, okay, I was drinking Diet Coke, but it was in my protein powder. It was in my ketchup. It was in my protein bars. It was in my BCAAs. I mean, it was in almost everything I was consuming every other hour.
Okay, hold on. Can we just pause with that for a second?
Yeah.
So here you are thinking that you're doing something really healthy. You're having BCAAs, you're having protein powder, these protein bars, that's probably like the reduced sugar ketchup, probably, I think is the one that has the sucralose in it. So like here you are doing these things that you think are healthy. I'm having a Diet Coke, not one with 40 grams of sugar or whatever nonsense.
Right.
And yet you're doing something that's harming your body.
Yeah. And you just don't know. Yeah. I mean, we don't know, we're thinking, oh, they say no sugar, or they say this. And in reality, like, one, it's all about balance, but in reality, you just want to make sure that you're not just fueling the fire of the bad genes. Right. And that's probably been, I would say, the biggest component for a lot of my clients is just artificial sweeteners, because when they come to me, they're already trying to do all the things, right? They're already trying to drink the diet soda. They're already trying to do the zero sugar and all this stuff. And they think that they're doing what's healthy for them, when in reality, it's just fueling that inflammatory fire, the detoxifying issues. And that's what's blocking, a lot of the problems that they're having. Then it's triggering like I said, the inflammation, it's causing the cravings, it's causing potential hormonal issues, it's a slew of things. But that has been, I would say, a pretty blanket effect for quite a few people. And I think it's probably the most astonishing, because they're like thinking they're doing all the right things. And in reality, it's just, fueling the fire, but it's because we just don't know.
Yeah, I'm imagining that our best friend is sitting across from us going like, wait, what do you mean I'm not supposed to do this? What do you mean that sugar-free drink is actually hurting me more?
Mm-hmm.
How would somebody know that their body is dealing with inflammation? Like what might they see or experience?
A lot of times, inflammation can cause us to have a lot of different issues. And it also depends on how long this inflammatory, issue's been triggered. And, if you're in your like mid 20s or something like that, your body's filtration system, even if you do have MTHFR, is working a lot better than when we're 45, right? So I feel like a lot of my clients are probably around the age of 35 to 45 that are really struggling, but they've been consuming these things consistently for years. And so a lot of the times they're really suffering from like joint pain because, the inflammation is putting excess pressure on your joints. So lower back. Cravings are a big component, because the way the body processes an artificial sweetener, it'll break it down like it would a sugar, but at the end it doesn't realize it doesn't get the sugar. So it's like, oh, bling, 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 we need it, so trigger that craving factor for people. And like I said, long-term stuff can be, hormonal issues, because of the inflammatory response can be causing hormonal issues for people. Brain fog, headaches, migraines are probably some of the most common, and sometimes potentially midsection weight gain. Also be a component for people, as well as gut issues. So there's kind of a broad spectrum, but those are kind of what I would consider the more like onset symptoms that a lot of people do experience.
Makes sense. I can also imagine that we probably have some listeners on right now going, oh my goodness, that is me.
Yeah, I was that
and
person.
Don't worry.
I was that person. And I've been in the industry for, oh gosh, I mean, since I was 19 and I'm 34, a long time now. And even then I still didn't know, so it's not, some people feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad, but this is everybody, because we're not educated on this unless we actually take the initiative to go look into this stuff ourselves,
For sure. Well, again, you go, all right, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to go buy some protein. And then you go to Walmart and you grab something off or Target, maybe a little bougier. You go to Target and you just grab something off the shelf where you're like, all right, I'm going to take some vitamins, and you get a multivitamin, and you're
Mhm.
not even realizing that if your body's struggling to process
Yep.
it, that multivitamin probably is not going to help you all that much. And you're
Right.
not realizing that this protein that looks really good. I mean, they have 10 lines of them.
Oh
So
yeah.
this must be one that a lot of people like, or
Hmm.
it's really good, and then you buy it and you don't realize that it's full of,
All the things.
stuff that's gonna
Yeah.
sucralose or soy or other things that's
Yep.
gonna jack you up. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So we've been alluding to genes and the way that genes play in.
Hmm.
How else do genes impact the way that our body operates, especially for women?
Right. So, I mean, it's really like everything that we do, right? It's like, oh, the way we're made, this is how we respond to everything. Our sports performance, like the way we're able to perform in a sport where we kind of find out where our genetic weaknesses are to get better,
Hmm.
and where you're like not as proficient, you're like, oh, I need to work on this to actually become a more well-rounded athlete. So that's a great component. But a huge thing is, like I said, just understanding how our bodies process certain things. And so if we're putting things into our bodies and it's, like I said, constantly fueling the bad gene fire, right? We're turning on those genes, the bad genes, and they're getting left on. Well, we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle with
Yeah.
mental health, our risk for chronic illness, which is, I mean, insane. All the things, it's just crazy how much it aligns. But when we don't understand how our bodies work, it's kind of like we're shooting in the dark, right? It's kind of like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't know where to start. Like, I don't know what to do or why this is happening. So when we can understand how our genes, how we're actually made, we can actually really uncover how the body works. I mean, what's fueling that fire? Okay. Well, the thing is, if we can understand what's fueling the fire, then we can learn how to turn those bad genes off and leave them off. Right. And that's the cool component. And that's really just how our body operates as a whole. Like I said, from even our performance as, if you're an athlete or whatever. I mean, Olympians use this type of training, or the genetic specialists and stuff like that work with their
Yeah.
students so that they can become more optimal athletes. But the thing is, if you can't set your body up right on the inside first, you're not going to perform optimally outside. And whether this be from an athletic standpoint or just in life, you can't expect to feel good if you're constantly turning on all these bad things, or you're, deficient in certain areas. And some of us, like I said,
Sure.
are just naturally more deficient, like I'm naturally deficient in B6, which is a huge component for, mental health, converting food into fuel, which is our energy levels, sleeping.
Hmm.
I mean, that's from one thing. So when we can understand where we lack, we can actually start to kind of put things into play. So that way we can actually start playing the cards we've been dealt, like we've been dealt a royal flush, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Mhm.
So I hear you talking, again about nutrition and helping your body really optimize and function the way that it's supposed to. And, I think about the majority of my listeners are American at this current point, and we live in a world that is so focused on the next diet, the next thing. If we have, I know that some of the women that are listening to this have probably tried every diet under the sun in order to try to get their body to lose weight or to feel healthier. What do you tell the chronic dieter? What advice do you have for her?
Honestly, the first and foremost thing is that to stop dieting, right? We just need to get off the diet train. It's either, most people have either been on a diet or cheating on a diet their entire life, right?
I love that.
And that's, I mean, it's the full truth. Like when I say that to people, they're like, that's actually me. And it's coming from the heart here, because I was that person. I was the person that was always looking for that next thing, and nothing ever worked. And it's mainly because we're not a one size fits all. We're just not. born unique. We were, given all these unique things, and we need to actually start embracing that uniqueness. And when we can embrace that uniqueness and understand our genetic component, we can develop a lifestyle that sets us up for longevity, optimal health, happiness, all those things. But we have to do it in a unique format. And the best way to do it is just by starting with your own blueprint. You just go looking at everybody, even identical twins are still a little different.
Totally.
Their personalities are different. Everything about everybody is insanely different. So we need to make sure that we get off the diet train and just start, living a good, healthy lifestyle. It's crazy that we live in a world these days where eating healthy is considered dieting.
I know. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's so wild. And if we can just get our minds off the diet train and just get in it for the long haul, and really, like I said, learn about our bodies and how to fuel our bodies properly. And then we start wanting all those other things less. It's crazy it's so much easier to, accomplish your goals when you don't have cravings, or, when you don't, when you're not tired or whatever, because being tired triggers cravings, and it's just,
Yep.
It's crazy. So when you can actually learn how to do that properly, and especially for your body, and embrace that uniqueness, it's a game changer. And I honestly feel like the best way to do that is just to get off the diet train, because we're just all different. We need to embrace that.
So you mentioned in your history, you talked briefly just about eating disorder. And I know even as we think about, again, the interesting part of the culture that we live in, where it's like, all right, diets, and then we've got eating disorders. And I'm loving what you're saying of like, get off the diet train, don't be on a diet and then cheating on your diet. Like, let's find something that works healthy for you.
Mm-hmm.
What other advice, and I love what you said about not being on the diet train, for the woman that's really struggling with her body and maybe even dealing with an eating disorder or body dysmorphia, what from your own story, your own history, could you say to her to help her?
Honestly, embrace the uniqueness. Just embrace it. And I feel like the biggest thing I would probably say is comparison is the thief of joy. We get on like social media, we're blasted all the time with these perfect bodies and all this stuff. And I'm telling you, I've worked with some, amazing people, very high end in the fitness modeling world. I've been around a lot of those people, and in person, they don't even look like that. They're not as perfect as they look on social media. And so we just get caught in this comparison game because we're on social media all the time. It's constantly in our face, and we're constantly thinking that we're not perfect, but nobody's perfect, and I really think that embracing our imperfections and our uniqueness is something that once you really actually open your mind up to doing that is where you can really start to, get on that path to living your best life, when you just realize comparison really is the thief of joy. The women out there that are, on social media, they're, the airbrushing, and it's like, even though we kind of know it, it's like we still think, just because we got a little bit of cellulite does not mean that you're not beautiful.
Yeah.
Like your husbands don't care,
No, they don't.
They don't care. Like, they married you the way they are, or, you're whatever relationship you're in. And I think that if we can just start embracing our uniqueness and just being happy with what we have while working for what we want is just a really good place to be, and giving you that good, healthy, happy balance. And, I think that we just need to accept that. But in reality, I feel like that's just such an amazing thing, because the world would be so boring if we were all the same.
Agreed.
It would be so boring. And so if we can learn to embrace the uniqueness and, really find perfection and imperfection, I feel like is a very freeing mindset to have. And so working towards that is something that I always, say is really important to, just stop comparing and just embrace who you are. And once you begin to do that, it just, like I said, life just gets so much better.
Yeah. Well, that's such a comparison that you said is the thief of joy. I often say it's the killer of joy.
really is.
I did a whole podcast on it a couple of months ago. I'll probably link it in the show
Mhm.
notes just as a reminder for our listeners. But you live in a world. I mean, when you think about being a WBFF pro, like it's, at least I hope I got the initials right. I
Yes,
did,
you did.
yes.
You did.
Okay, so where it is, I mean, it's all about comparison. And
Mhm.
so, Jessica, as you're saying this, you're encouraging, which I'm loving. You're saying, hey, don't compare.
Mhm.
Work on being the best version of yourself. Find perfection or find beauty in the fact that you are imperfect, that you have a little cellulite. And like, even if you're scoping and hoping, maybe you're not in a relationship, but you're hoping to be in one, that your cellulite is not going to keep you from having a relationship. And so not to be overly focused on the small things.
Yeah. And honestly, with being a WBFF pro, you're getting on a stage to be judged, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
think the way I've really taken it is that I just want to get better each time. I'm not competing with anybody else other than myself. And me getting better isn't necessarily always just an aesthetic thing. Sometimes it's like, hey, I just want to bring a better presentation to stage. I want to bring more energy. I want to bring potentially a different look. Like I want to do my hair a different way. I want better posing. And that's one of the things that I really love about the WBFF is that it's not really like your stereotypical bodybuilding. They really do embrace just the beauty. It's actually called World Beauty fashion and fitness. And so I love that they embrace that and they embrace a very healthy looking physique. And, I really do feel like they embrace the imperfections, and I have some clients that I train to do WBFF shows as well. And they feel like they're not going to, go to that next level because they have stretch marks. But I have tons of friends and, who've won crowns and, are WBFF pros that have stretch marks, and I think that it's so great that they really embrace, just the beauty component and the imperfection of beauty, and I feel like, when you're getting on the stage or if you're trying to accomplish that goal, it's not about the next person, it's not about who you're up against. It's really just about being better than you were the last time that you stepped on stage.
Yeah.
And really a lot of power in that when you do take that kind of focus. And I really feel like that actually comes through your presentation on the stage as well, which the judges can really see because it's just about confidence. A lot of it's confidence. And if you're just really feeling confident, that's going to show on stage. And if you don't necessarily have to have the perfect body, you can bring a totally different presentation and they see that.
I love that. If our listeners, are watching us on YouTube, then they can see you, they can feel your confidence. And I'm hoping if they're listening, they can hear it. And what you said, I think every single person listening, but women for sure, need to let that sink in. That confidence, saying and seeing ourselves as beautiful and seeing the beauty in our imperfection, the stretch marks, the cellulite, the things that, maybe aren't perfectly symmetrical, whatever that is, where you just go, wow, I'm beautiful, and finding the confidence in this is what I look like and I can be proud of my body, that is something that even people from the outside, so judges would experience that, but even in our everyday life,
Absolutely.
that people truly experience our confidence. And confidence, one, tells us we can trust ourselves, but it helps other people trust us too.
Absolutely. And I feel like
So powerful.
bleeds into our lives in so many different ways, especially in our relationships. My husband and I have been together for coming up on 16 years and we're fixing to be married for 10 in August. And, that's yay, whoop, whoop. We've been together a long time. And, I just think that confidence is a huge component with not just the relationships with our spouse, but with our children as well, because then our children become confident and we can teach our children confidence. It's all really about leading by example, and confidence is just a huge component. And like I said, so many aspects of our lives, going for that next promotion or having the confidence to even apply for it or the next job that you want or whatever the case, being a WBFF pro, I just really feel like that's a big thing that can be used in so many aspects of life. So when you can do anything to boost your confidence, I always say go for it.
Yeah, and we live such in a world where again it's like if you get focused off of comparison and you just go, all right, how can I compete with myself? How
Mhm.
can I be the best version of me? All of a sudden, and then not in an unhealthy way. It's like you get to be focused on becoming the best version of you, which truly then does lead you to be confident. So
Absolutely.
I'm loving this conversation right
Yeah,
now.
me
Um,
too.
hmm.
All good things.
Jessica, so great. All the things. So if you could leave the woman that's listening, if you could really leave her with one thing that you wish that she got about her body,
Mhm.
and you've already told us so many wonderful things, is there one thing that you're like, if I was going to tell my best friend this one thing, this is what I would tell her?
I don't know necessarily about just your body in general, but one of the biggest things I always say is that you are honestly capable of so much more than you would ever imagine. You know, I think about my life now and where I was, I've been broke. Yeah, I've been dead broke. And I've struggled. I've struggled with, I mean, everything under the sun, and I'm talking serious eating disorders, serious depression, just so many things that we've made it through it all. We're still here, we're still fighting. And the thing is, I always just say is that if you want something, see yourself doing it and just go after it. Because, like I said, you are I mean, you can do anything, anything. I mean, especially in this world, where we have access to just about anything to be successful. I mean, people are millionaires from their phones. Like, I mean, it's just crazy how the world is today. And so, whether it's getting healthier or losing 100 pounds or focusing on your relationship, I really just want people to understand that they are capable of anything, but I feel that a key component with that is putting your health first, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and it's
No, you
hard.
can't.
It's really hard, especially as a mom, you know to it's okay to realize it's okay to take time to put my health first, because then I start to give my family the best version of me rather than just what's left of me,
Mm,
and that's a big thing. And we just kind of have to start taking that into consideration, that we can accomplish anything, but it all starts and ends with us, and that starts and ends with our health. And so that's really just a vehicle to the life that you want to live or the goal that you want to accomplish. Like I said, you can do it. You can make it happen. Because trust me, if I can make it happen, you can make it happen. But
yeah.
that vehicle is all through just getting healthy and making that a priority of your life. It's not an expense, it's a priority, and it's just something that and non-negotiable for me anymore. Because I
Yeah.
truly know if my health is suffering, then the rest of my life is suffering, and I can't accomplish anything if my health isn't right. So
Yeah. I often say if you don't have your health, you don't have much.
no, no,
No,
and I
because
agree.
you can't enjoy, like, even if you have a family, even if you have a career or something that you love, if you're struggling physically, it
Mhm.
makes it very hard to enjoy that or to show up as the best version of yourself in that. And so our health is paramount. That's one of the reasons, I'm actually spending a whole month talking about health and nutrition for our
Mhm.
listeners, is because it's so important. And Jessica, I'm feeling like, oh, I just like want to give you a hug from far away because yes, because you are so encouraging to women to go, listen, you can do things that you never thought that you were capable of. You can do it. You're
Absolutely.
more capable than you believe. And as a reminder, I think I honestly don't know a woman that doesn't struggle with uh, pouring from an empty cup, of
Mhm.
really needing to be mindful to say, all right, I'm going to take care of me. Because typically women are like, put the oxygen mask on everybody else before they'll put the oxygen mask on themselves. When
Mhm.
in reality, if we will choose us, and by the way, it is selfish to choose us, but not a negative version of selfishness,
No.
a positive selfishness of saying, I choose me so I can choose you better, so I
Yeah.
can love you more, so I can show up for you more. And then in that process of taking care of us, we also begin to recognize, wow, I'm so capable, more capable more capable than I ever imagined that I actually am. I
Right.
mean, we have so much in us. I think about my brother, who's a Navy SEAL, and he would say that our bodies, we can push our bodies to do things that, like our brain would say, our brain tells us to stop before our body actually tells us to stop. Because our
Right.
brain's like, no, this hurts, it doesn't feel good. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, not choosing the food with the nonsense in it might be something that our brain's like, no, you don't want to do that, or no, you need Chick-fil-A today, and some days you do need Chick-fil-A, but
Right. I mean,
not all the days.
we all
Not
need
all the
those things.
days. Not all the
Those
days.
things serve
And
a purpose too.
totally. And so I say that to say that's not what you're saying. You're not saying, hey, you can never enjoy your life or have foods that you enjoy. What you are saying is you're capable. You're capable of achieving the things that you want to have, that you can say no to the foods that you think that you can't say no to.
Mhm.
You can have the life that you want to have. And, what you're walking out is evidence of that. And so I'm just over here celebrating you, and also going, I hope our listeners are so encouraged to hear where you've come from to where you are now, and that if you can do it, they can do it too.
Absolutely. It really, and it's just, like I said, and it's so cool, to see people really go through that and just, realize that, man, the money's in the journey, the money's in the
Totally.
journey. And so it gets hard, there's times that you're not going to win every day, but I always just say fail forward, right? Like just keep failing forward. Eventually we'll get there, but just making that
Totally.
effort, and taking ourselves off the back burner, because and I just think about my daughter, is like, I want her to know that that's okay, and I want to teach her those things because I don't want her to struggle like I did, and the best way for me to be able to do that is help lead by example and just show her, hey, if you live this way, then you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish too, and so I
So
think,
powerful.
yeah, and those just, our kids just become our legacies, and so
Yeah.
just hoping that happens with her and she lives the best life. And like I said, we're just capable of pretty amazing things, especially as women. I mean, we are designed to give birth, which I feel like that
Magical.
alone says that we are pretty darn awesome.
For sure. So magical.
Yeah.
So, Jessica, I'm going to link it in the show notes for our listeners, but for those who are more auditory, can you tell them where to find you?
Yeah, so most of my stuff is done through my Instagram, which is at Bodies by JFit. And then I do have a website that you can contact me on as well, which is bodybyjfit.com.
Awesome. So I know that people are going to go find you because you're amazing. And before, at my usual is I always end with questions. And so I just want to leave the listeners, some questions to ask themselves. So some of the things that I just really want you to think through are, what do you need to do that you've been afraid to do? So what do you need to do that you've been afraid to do? What struggles can you turn to fuel for your life? Where do you need to release comparison? Where do you need to affirm you? And what's the thing that you know that you need to try that you haven't? ... because you're capable. So, best friend, it was wonderful to be with you today. Jessica, thank you for joining the friendship. We're in, we're buddies now. We're in for our listeners, my mom has been like, you will love her. So this is actually the first time me and Jessica are like hanging out. And my mom was right, as per my mom, most of the time, 99.9% of the time. Jessica is amazing, and I love her so much already. And so thank you again, Jessica, for just being with me and being a part of this conversation and just encouraging women to be their best and capable selves.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to, spread my passion and heart to everybody as well.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to stop recording just a second.